Hey, everybody, we are here. It is the beginning of July. We're basically at the midpoint of the summer. We finished the first third of our production season. May and June is behind us, and we wanted to do a mid-season safety refresh. And to me, one of the most important things is, the whole business is safety, making sure that everybody's making good decisions, that everybody is safe. And it might be a little bit counterintuitive, but the reason we wanted to do this is because a lot of accidents, the majority of our accidents, and always the most serious accidents, happen in July and August typically. And a big part of the reason is overconfidence. And people don't take the same precautions because you start to get comfortable, you start to get good at ladders, you start to do things that you in July and August that you might not have done in May and June. And some of the safety concerns and things to watch out for in July and August are a little bit different than in May and June. One of them, Lauren will talk a lot about heat, being able to manage the heat, as well as water. It's a bunch of different things that show up in July and August that are a bit different, but we just want to take a quick time out, make sure that we do a quick refresh, make sure we keep everybody safe. And I know, Lauren, you and I have been talking about this for a couple of weeks. It's been a big piece of what you've been working on the last couple of years, but we've had an amazing safety record, but it's because we pay so much attention to it.
Yeah, and I guess for me, like when I typically go on job sites, it's funny when you see that at the beginning of the year, people are going relatively slow and they're trying to be super, super careful. And then that confidence comes in, that, as Aaron said, the overconfidence. And yeah, you start seeing people starting to rush things and cutting corners and stuff like that. And maybe majority of the time it's totally fine, but it takes that one time to like let that safety slide. And something bad happens. So we definitely don't want that to happen. So we're going to take you through a little bit of a refresh and hopefully get some things back top of mind for you guys as you continue through the season here.
100%. Same thing goes for your employees, right? Like make sure, I would highly recommend you do this with your employees as well. You could be perfect on the safety and do everything right, but your employees are doing the same things as well, right? They're getting confident, they're getting good. Maybe they just reach a little bit too far, or they think something, it's going to be okay. That's fine. It just takes, as Lauren said, 1 second to do something that could have very serious and significant long-term impact. So I'm going to look at ladders. Lauren's going to look at heat. We're going to keep it tight, but at the same time, want to make sure we go through a bit of a refresh. So ladders, everyone's probably pretty comfortable with it. You probably have your favorite ladder for this time. Mine was definitely the 2432 than three-way. If I had to rank mine 1, 2, 3, a little less to deal with maybe with a 32, but with all that said, ladders are, it's a huge tool for you. So making sure that you've got a tool that's in good working order and you're using it properly is most important with any tool. Ladders are no different. So it's starting to double check your ladders. Your ladders have, if you're a senior especially, have started to go through even more wear and tear. If you're a rookie, they're not brand new anymore. And it's a good thing to do a quick check and do a second check and make sure there's things that maybe you haven't been on a 24, maybe your employee's been on the 24 last 3 weeks. And you haven't even looked at it really, other than the fact that it's strapped on your car. So the keys, again, double check broken or missing rungs. If there's a rung that's warped or bent or broken, like that ladder can't be used. Broken or missing foot, did the rubber rip off, like just as it's been used. So again, the feet become more and more, I'll talk a bit about why here in a second, but more and more important as the year goes on. The pulley system, that's something we see at the beginning of the season. If someone's getting used or kind of like janky ladders, like the pulley system is missing or not working properly. Is your rope frayed? So people are, and you've been using it a lot more. Does the rope need to be replaced? I've got a video that I did. It's actually really, really simple to replace the rope on your ladder. Is it too short now? What's going on with that rope? Like, does the rope need to be replaced? Again, that's what I think about somebody grabbing the ladder, pulling on a rope. It's frayed. Does that break? Does the rope snap or get jammed? Right? If it gets jammed, it's one thing, but if it snaps, that ladder's gonna be coming down. It's going to crack somebody's hand that's holding it. And then bent, warped, cracked body, like taking a look at it. Did an employee maybe drop it and you didn't know, you weren't there and you didn't see it? Was it strapped on your roof? Weird. And now it's kind of weird. One of the things to see with that, if it's harder to lift it to extend or bring down a ladder, it's a pretty good chance that it's warped, even if it's minorly warped. So doing a double check of your equipment to make sure that your equipment and your tools are in good working order is step one. and something that I highly recommend that you do more often than just once a year. But you're at the midway point. If you haven't done it in a while, take a look through your stuff, make sure it's all in good shape. Same thing actually goes for your window cleaning equipment. As a quick aside, make sure you got enough equipment. It's middle of the year. Like if you need more squeegee rubbers, let us know. If you need another squeegee handle, or if you got a Ninja that's cracked and leaking everywhere, like just take the quick minute, do an audit of all your equipment, but do a safety audit of your ladders and make sure that things are there for you. Unsafe ground conditions. So you've probably seen a bunch of this, but uneven ground, so gravel or hills or slopes. A steep slope is always one. Wet deck or any other slippery ground surface. This is a big one. July and August morning dew is significantly more, especially as the summer goes on. You start to get some of those warm days and the cooler nights, and all of a sudden you get this dew, and you're not even thinking. It's a bright blue sunny day, and all of a sudden you're at your first job, maybe even your second job. Like that's the worst, but it's your second job of the day, and you got a grassy slope. That's gonna be super slick, potentially. You got a deck, and I look at my deck. Most mornings right now is a bit damp, so you got these wet decks. You've got these things that are just 100% going to happen. Our biggest accident so far this year. Everyone's okay, but wet deck. And it was a three-way ladder. So someone had a three-way ladder on a wet deck, and they had it extended and it slid. So again, just things to keep in mind, things that people are not always making bad decisions, but sometimes you're not looking for the same things, or you're moving a little bit quicker. So the wet deck, the slippery ground surface, even if it didn't rain, even if it's not raining in the morning, you're going to have these things, especially if it's an older deck, or whatever the surface happens to be, because you get all this pollen that has come, and then it gets wet and it becomes algae through the season. So if somebody hasn't like cleaned their deck off through the year, or done anything like that, you could have some algae there, and that stuff is even slippery. 100% the ladder is going to fall. So please make sure that that's something you're really paying attention to. These steep slopes, the wet and slippery deck, and the ground surface. Even on a bright blue 23-degree 8 a.m. job, you could have a wet deck with a bluebird sky. So keep that in mind. And any of these things doesn't mean you can't at all do them. You may not, there's some where you shouldn't, but you always want to use a spotter with these. And if you're on a slope or anything like that, you want to flip those feet around at the bottom and make sure the teeth go into the ground, and then you've got as stable a surface as you possibly can. Couple quick things on climbing the ladder. I'll go through these, but one of the things I've seen over and over and over again is people start reaching further and further and further as the year goes along. I see like bodies through ladders, like arms around, because people are so comfortable, right? Like that big long reach. Like, do I really want to move the 24 foot? It's like 3 more inches, and then the ladder can slide. And we've had that happen once this year too, not based on a reach, not based on the ladder was set up. All the climbing ladder was done properly, but there was again, as it was based on reach was too far. So I was trying to reach into the corner versus move the ladder one more time, but it wasn't the ladder setup. It was the reach that created that. You want to stay safe, and you don't want to do something that you wouldn't have done in May. Even if the ladder is set up perfectly, you can still have an accident with somebody who's a little overconfident and trying to do too much. So proper ratio, 3 to 4 feet for every one up for every 1 foot out. Use a spotter. Some situations it needs to be too steep if you got a fence or something weird, or too flat if you're trying to go over something, or what. Just make sure you've got a spotter. If it is too flat, use the teeth. Again, you can get the Frankenstein. You can see, I think it's Kean in that picture. If your arms are straight out, standing up, that's typically going to be the right angle. 3 points of contact at all times. It's hard to have 3 points of contact when you're reaching, because you see like the ballerina, like one leg in the air. Someone's like reaching as far as they can. 3 points of contact. Don't stand on the third rung or higher of an extension ladder. Again, as people get overconfident, I've seen people stand on like the second from the top. It's scary. Like it's just crazy. You know what I mean? Like I've just seen that happen when you walk up, because again, the confidence is there. You get stabilizers, the ladder set up properly, but someone's standing way too high on that ladder. Don't stand on the top of a step ladder. That will be a call that I know I get. Somebody fell off a step ladder and twisted an ankle or hurt their back because it comes out from underneath them and they landed on it. I will get that call this year, and hopefully that's all that has happened. So please do not stand on the top step of a step ladder, and always have stabilizers above 9 feet. Stick to that and tie off the ladder when accessing a roof. We'll get some storms and some different things. It's beautiful where I am right now, but we're supposed to get storms this afternoon. They're going to come in quick. So keep those in mind as you go through. There is no reason to have an accident, especially as the year goes on and people get better and more skilled. but accidents will happen, and doing these things and keeping these things in mind means it's not going to be your crew. I don't want it to be any crew. It's just, it's a terrible way to end the summer. And we're not going to have it this year. So it's because everybody's doing this, and you're going to go through a safety refresh, go back to the basics. Just a quick timeout can bring some awareness, and keeping in mind that, again, some of these other things like dew on the ground is not something you were looking for in May. And some of these things can sneak up on you and get you because of overconfidence. Another thing we don't deal with in May and June, the heat that a lot of times we deal with in July and August. So Lauren, I'll pass it over to you to talk a bit more about the heat.
Yeah, so that's something that obviously everyone every summer they deal with heat and what that feels like with your body. But especially this summer, if someone's never been out working hard, doing more of a labor intensive job, the heat is a massive thing that you want to keep in mind. We've had record breaking levels of humidity and heat, like in Ontario, but even more so out west. I know that some temperatures were reaching above 40 degrees with the Humidex, which is mind-boggling for me. I don't mind working in the heat, but that's pretty hot, right? So hopefully everyone has been careful out there, but I'm just going to go through kind of some ways you can pay attention to that and kind of what heat stress is and everything there. So just in general, like heat stress is like a natural set of symptoms that someone gets the more their body heats up. It's your body essentially telling you like, holy crap, I'm getting a little too hot here. You've got to do something about this. But yeah, as your body does heat up, it does try to rid itself of that heat through evaporation of sweat. So you will sweat a lot, but eventually once your body reaches kind of like that 38, 39 degree Celsius point, sweat stops, your brain starts shutting down as it's overheating, right? That's the worst case scenario, but there's a lot of things that you can do to avoid getting to that point. The main way of doing that is by looking at a Humidex. So a Humidex reaching or exceeding 35 is when you start getting into like that risk factor area for workers, without taking into proper consideration what those symptoms are and how to control those. So on the next slide there, it's more, this is like, how do you actually figure out what the Humidex is? So there's two factors to it. It's pretty simple to figure out, and the Weather Channel will help you a lot with it, but it's a combination of the temperature outside. So if it's 23 degrees Celsius, cool, that's the temperature. But what's that humidity going to bring it up to? And that's your Humidex. So you can look at the chart based on where everything's at temperature wise and humidity to get that overall Humidex. And then with getting that Humidex number, that's when you can kind of start looking at what are the categories that I need to pay attention to, and what do I do with that. So going on to the next one there. So heat stress action chart. So cool. I figured out what my Humidex is. I've looked at the forecast. I kind of know what I'm going to be dealing with in this certain day, or even just the week in general. It's good to plan it out ahead of time. That low range is going to be like the 30 to 37 degrees. So as I said, once you're starting to get into like that 35, that's when you need to start taking into consideration what's going on. But the main thing in that kind of category is just making sure you're drinking water. And if you need breaks, you're going to take breaks. In that medium range, so like that 38 to 39, that's when you're really going to want to start like reducing your physical activity. So like slow yourself down. So as we're talking about maybe taking a step back with your ladders and slowing things down a little bit. Hey, it might not be the worst thing, so that you can make sure that you're not overheating your body at the same time. But once again, make sure you're drinking lots of water. Get that into you every 20 to 30 minutes at a minimum, making sure that 1 cup of water is being had each interval. Then you're kind of getting into those higher ranges. I hope we never get into like that extreme, that 45, but that's where basically you'd want to be stopping work. But I guess basically last week we were in that moderate to high, right? So people really need to be careful that they are taking breaks and you're drinking tons of water. So for you guys as managers, I would strongly suggest investing $30 into a cooler, fill it up with a bunch of water each day, put a bunch of ice in there, your bodies will thank you, and I'm sure just the mindset of your team will thank you as well. Because who doesn't like a nice cold bottle of water to drink and maybe just dump on your head too if you're getting really warm there. So but yeah, so just in general things, actions that you can do to make sure that you're taking care of yourselves and your team while you're out there. As I said, make sure you calculate that Humidex. It's pretty simple to figure that out. Weather Channel basically tells you as well, and then kind of act according to what that action chart is going to be telling you. But the biggest things to keep in mind there, making sure that you're drinking water throughout the day, and ideally leave more space between jobs too. If you know it's going to be a really, really hot one, maybe you go hard for like that 45 minutes and you're getting that job done, but you give yourself a half an hour sort of break between jobs, get some AC on you, get some food and water into you before you start jumping into that next one. Please, please, please dress based on the weather. So wear summer clothes when it is summer weather. And make sure you wear a hat. The number of times, I'll be honest, the number of times I've seen people wearing sweatshirts when it's like 30, 35 degrees out, I guess it's a personal choice, but that's really not helping your body heat regulation. So wear summer clothes. It's the best idea. And ideally get one with like some UV protection in your clothes as well. Might cost a little bit more, but it helps you out in the long run. Apply sunscreen regularly. So it's a good idea to be applying sunscreen like every hour, I guess, depending on the SPF that you're using. Just keep that on you. That's going to help, obviously not burn your skin, but it helps with that regulation of your body temperature as well. And last thing is really like listen to your body. Take the time that you need to recover. If you're not feeling super great, you're feeling a little bit lightheaded, even if you've been drinking water, then listen to your body. Make sure that your employees are coming to talk to you if they're not feeling super great. And be careful out there. It's fun to be outside when it's hot and warm, but you don't want to push the limits either. So be careful, especially when you're working with ladders. And then just a reminder on the last thing. I mean, we're talking about safety, and hopefully we never come across anything that you need to use this set of actions for. But if a serious injury were to ever occur on your job site, just a reminder, please call 911 first. Doesn't matter who else you call. If that person needs help, make sure that they're getting the help that they need right away. Your second call should be to the College Pro call center. So that they're going to help be kind of like that middle person with communications, making sure that everything, like documentation's getting put together and things like that. So really important to call them second. And then third is to call your local general manager, your coach, whoever that is, so that we can stay in the loop and we can start kind of being a point person to help make sure that that person's getting whatever help that they need. And please share this with your teams again as well, because if it's you that is needing that help and they don't really know what to do, then that obviously poses some challenges at the same time there. So after that, call whoever you want. Doesn't matter, but please make sure it's 911 first, call center second, call your GM, and then move on from there. So yeah, after kind of going through a bunch of that stuff, hopefully it's not scaring anyone. So when you go through safety, sometimes it can be a little bit like nerve wracking, but it's really important to keep these things top of mind, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure everyone has a good, successful summer, but also very safe at the same time. And we have a pretty good track record with it, as Aaron mentioned, because we tend to go over it many, many times. So let's keep it that way, and everyone stay safe out there.
Without a doubt. And I think just all these things we're doing and talking about are preventative and simple. There's nothing in here that's super complex, but for me, I'm guilty of it, especially when I was running my franchise. I did not use enough sunscreen. Right now I'm crazy about it, but like, I didn't realize, I think, how much it helped me. I thought I was just trying not to get burnt, and I didn't really get super burnt when I was running my franchise, but I didn't realize how much heat it kept off my body and the sun and just those things like wearing me down. Like, I had way more energy. If you're waiting to be thirsty to drink, it's too late. It's too late. So having enough water and drinking enough water and constantly drinking enough water. Like, when I think about like an athlete, let's say, who's got to have their body at a high level to perform, you do as well. But athletes are drinking water when they're not playing either, right? Like, they're just keeping their body at a highly hydrated level, keep yourself safe. Again, make sure that your confidence is a huge asset. It's going to allow you to get jobs done quicker and continue to hit and beat budgets and get better. But don't let it become a liability where you start doing things that probably shouldn't do, or you wouldn't have done when you were a little bit, let's say, more cautious earlier in the season. So take care of yourself, take care of your teams. Like Lauren said, we want everyone to have a successful summer, but a safe summer. There is no reason for there to be an accident. There's nothing there that should create a dangerous situation other than being aware of some of the elements and making some good decisions as you go through the rest of the season. So with all that said, have an amazing rest of the season, a safe rest of the season. We really look forward to seeing everybody finish the season strong and at the same time do that very safely. So share this with your team, get this out to whoever needs to see it. It's a super important piece to stay safe as you keep being successful. So have an awesome rest of your week, awesome rest of your day, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
See you later, guys.